Hello and welcome to AGRIPRENUER, a program that looks at the Nigerian agricultural sector and what it is doing differently. Rice, one of the most consumed staple foods in the country, has continued to go beyond the reach of many, despite a series of government interventions to make it available and affordable to the masses. Consumers at the market express concern over the implementation of government policy and how it has not been able to achieve its objectives of making rice affordable. In this episode of AGRIPRENUER, we look at factors responsible for the continued hiking price of rice in the market and possible remedy. I am Gaza Yakubu. It's been 8 years since the federal government placed a ban on the importation of rice in the Nigerian markets. But despite the fact that it is available, it has remained unaffordable to the consumers.
Okay, before I used to buy one bag when it was 16,000. Then at a point, it got to 20-something thousand. I used to buy bag, but this time around, seriously, I think like this year, usually I used to buy one bag of rice every 6 months. But seriously, this year I've not been able to buy one bag of rice, and I'm not sure I can buy it in the next 6 months because of the hike in the price so far. Even the local one is even not affordable.
But sooner than we started producing here in Nigeria, we discovered that the thing started from 7,000 as promised, and as we talk today now, the cheapest rice we can get, Nigerian produce, the cheapest rice you can get now cannot be less than 30,000. And it is actually affecting the consumers. And that is, everybody's crying that why as a country now, we started producing and the rice price is no longer affordable to the less privileged as promised by the government.
When the rice pyramid were launched in the Federal Capital Territory with the president in attendance, many Nigerians had anticipated the price of rice was going to drop significantly. In fact, one of the rice cooperative members had anticipated that there was going to be a crash in price and Nigeria would start enjoying the local produced rice.
Looking at the economies surrounding the production, right? I give it to you, within the next few weeks, the prices of the processed rice would not be above 25,000, and it will continue to decrease to the barest affordable. So, and I think it's a plus to this government. This government has done a lot of things, and evidence of what it has done is the pyramids you could see here that are displaying the abundance of rice in Nigeria.
With AGRIPRENUER following the development since the rice pyramid revolution, the price of rice has consistently been on the rise, leaving consumers groaning over the increment.
I use my own family as I know how we consume before, and it's not as if it's even a too large family, so to say. A family of 4, which by right should be a minimum family standard. But it's not easy. Before, you can see a family that can, cook rice 3 times a week. But these days, if once a week is an applause.
In 2015, the federal government through the CBN placed a ban on importation of 41 items including rice, with the aim of encouraging local production. As laudable as the policy is, the ability of farmers to produce locally has not been enhanced, as the cost of fertilizer, among others, have affected the success of the policy.
Mainly, the determinant of the cost of rice is not really the volume. It has to be the cost of production, like any other business. Nobody sells below cost of production. And as you very well know, virtually everything has hit the rooftops. fertilizer, the basic inputs have gone to the rooftop. There was an intervention initially, the federal government fertilizer initiative, whereby the prices were sort of subsidized or controlled, but because of some of the components that we were importing, particularly phosphate from Morocco and other costs, they affected the cost of production. And then, of course, like you said, we had those flood, which wiped away a substantial part of it. But by and large, the cost of production has to be impacted for it to impact the what you call it, the table, the price at the table. So that the pyramid will show. The expectation was that it will affect the price because the CBN actually intervened by subsidizing part of it, because what we have found here is that there are some in authority or economies that frown at subsidy, but even in the West, as developed as they are, they still subsidize agriculture. And so long as we want the last mile price to be impacted, then we have to do proper targeting of agricultural subsidies. Not only will be targeted at the farmers, the small scale farmer, who ordinarily are the ones that feed us. Large scale farming has not taken root here really as an economic venture. So these small farmers with half hectare, 1 hectare, and deep in the rural areas are the ones that feed us. But most of them, the inputs get to them at very prohibitive prices. And then, like we said, even if they are not literate, they understand the basics of business. You have to cover your cost and make a margin in order to remain afloat.
The milling industries are part of the major players in rice production. In fact, they are directly involved in aggregating paddies from the local farmers within the country, as well as processing and making them available to the market. The millers observe some factors responsible for the high cost of rice.
I'm the one to tell you the factors. High cost of production, electricity, transportation, all these are key factors that determine the cost of the rice. For example, last year at this time we were buying paddy around 220,000. Now we are buying 320,000. The cost of diesel last year is around 250. Now, today is almost 900 naira per liter. Transportation have not even doubled, maybe quadrupled from the last cost last year and today. So if you take all the basic parameters that will add to a cost of anything, not only rice, it has affected rice industry a lot.
Electricity is very essential in factories, and the inability of power distribution companies to provide 24 hours power supply has led to some millers to devise alternative way of powering their operation. They noted that it is equally expensive to maintain. All these put together determine the price of rice in the market.
It's feasible, some of us have, but it's very expensive, depending on how big is the rice mill. Then you can source your own power. But even that at a cost. Now every Nigerian has learned to live with the issue of electricity. So it's not something that we should keep on talking about over years. Everybody knows about it. The main need of the rice value chain is how we can enhance the primary production. Once the primary production is, the supply is good, I think most of the things will take their own cost.
A bag of processed rice is not less than 35,000 naira against the 25,000 naira it was sold previously in the market. However, there are varieties. Here is one of those local markets in Kano called Dawaki. The traders further highlighted the reasons behind the cost of rice.
Babban abin da ya haifar da tsadar shinkafa abu na ba a same ta inda aka saba rangwamenta ba shine tun a matakin farko, tun a wurin noma. Takin da kake iya siyan sa a naira 11,000 a bara, bana an sai da shi naira 31,000. Maganin feshin da ake iya siyan sa na ciyawa a matsayin naira 3,000, 2,000 a bara, a bana an siye shi 8,000, 10,000. Leburan da kake iya ɗaukarsa a baya, a bara waccan, ka ba shi naira 1,000, 1,500. Bana ka ɗauke shi ka ba shi naira 3,000, 4,000. To wannan gaskiya ina daga cikin abin da ya haifar da hawa farashi. A baya muna iya siyan shinkafa wacce ba a yi fadin ɗinta ba akan naira 10,000, akan naira 17,000, 18 zuwa 20, amma a yanzu a bana shinkafa sai da ta kai buhun sareren shinkafa wanda ba a yi fadin ɗinta ba, sai da ta kai muna iya siyan ta naira 27,000, 28,000 a kasuwa. Sakamakon manomi shi ma ya kashe kuɗi masu nauyi wajen samar da ita. To gaskiya fi sabilillahi wannan abin ya taka rawa ba karama ba wajen hawa farashi. Wannan shine gaskiyar lamarin abin da ya faru.
Farashin shinkafa yanzu ya samu ƙari saboda yanayin da ake ciki a ƙasar. Sakamakon a da za ka kana samun shinkafa ƙarama ana samun ta 1,300, 400, 500. Amma yanzu ƙaramar shinkafa tana iya kaiwa 1,600, 650. Ok, fadi rice a yanzu tana iya kaiwa 27,000 a yanzu haka. A yanzu haka tana kaiwa 27,000. Da akan same ta 20,000, 19,000, 17,000 da ana samu. Ya dai danganta da wace iri ce, babba ce, ƙarama ce, to shine zai tantance yanayin farahinta. Wasu suna so su siya, amma kuma saboda ko kana da kuɗin ma a account ɗinka, za ka ga in ka zo mu yanayin yadda za mu siyar. Idan mun karɓi transfer yanzu, za ka ga mun je a kasuwannin ƙauye haka muna so mu sayi shinkafar, dole sai mun ba su cash. Domin da yawa mutanen ƙauye in ma kace za ka tura wani hega kamar cutarsa za ka yi. So gaskiya muna fuskantar wannan ƙalubalen.
Gaskiya ba a samu hauhawar farashi ba sakamakon ba kuɗin a hannun mutane da za su zo siya, kai ma kuma ba kuɗin da za ka je ka siya. Su wanda za ka je ka siya a gurin su zai iya kasancewa mutum ya fito da kayansa don buƙatar kansa, kai kuma da za ka je ka siya babu kashi a gurinka da za ka je ka biya mutum. To kaga ta bayan fage wani in yazo ina da ɗan kashi, dole ne kana sai da kaya naira 500 misali, in za a bada kashi za ka iya rage ka siya 450, wani ma ka siya 400. Saboda gaskiya za a iya taɓa wani ɓangaren za a iya cewa kaya ya yi ƙasa. Ta wani ɓangaren kuma misali in ka zo kana sai da kaya naira 1,000, in ka sai 1,000 na za ka samu naira 50 misali. To aka ce sai ka yi transaction da banki, za ta caje ka naira 50, naira kaza, naira kaza, sai ka ɗan abin da za ka samu nan ma ya kuma tafiya a ciki. Saboda kai da za ka sai da kayan wani zubin dole ba za ka iya rage ƙasar inda kake sai da farahin ba. In kai ga rage ka yi ga kuma kuɗin banki zai caje ka, sai ga asara ce ma a cikinta. A bag ana samun kwano 40 a ciki. Idan ka buga wata za ka same ta naira 60,000, wata za ka same ta naira 62,000, a kowace za ka samu naira 56,000. Ya dai danganta da irin wacce ake so.
The lingering insecurity across the country and the effect of flood have left millers with little quantity of paddies to mill. These have further impacted negatively on government plan of achieving self-sufficiency and making available affordable rice in the market.
Things that have occurred, though it's not human, it's natural. Issues like flooding has affected the industry very hard because the primary production, which is the source of our raw material, has been in a problem. So that is the major thing that has happened to the industry this year. That is not common to other years because the flooding we have this year is common to that of 2012, which also have affected the industry very well. You know, the value chain has become active in the last 10 to 12 years. And in that 10 to 12 years, we have a lot of development. I can say we have achieved almost 70 to 75% self-sufficiency in the sector. But this year, we are drawn back a little due to the excessive flooding we have. So if you said we don't have enough, yes, but we are in the path of getting to that level.
It's a basic law of economics now. Once you have reduced supply, automatically the price, because there will be competition. All the millers will still want to remain in competition, and then as they invade the farm gates and the grain markets, of course there will be stiff competition for access to the limited quantity that is available. So automatically it will impact the price. That's the basic law of economics now. But there have been plans. For instance, we relate with the Federal Ministry of Agri that says there are plans to give high yielding and flood resistant varieties of seeds that have been developed by our research institutes. The NCRI released some 2 varieties, Faro 68 and 67, which are expected to be flood resistant. But they are yet to reach the farmers, and the rains are already here. We also, the cost of fertilizer on the average now is around 15, 20, even 25 or more per bag. And of course, automatically, very few farmers will have access to that. And as you may equally be aware, one of the greatest boosts to the rice production is the Anchor Borrower program, which sadly has been suspended in the past 3 seasons. And the private finance, the banks particularly, have not been very keen in funding agriculture. So that Anchor Borrower really came to the rescue. But that fund is from the government, is from the central bank. And perhaps due to, maybe we say fatigue or whatever, the policy has not been sustained. Maybe due to poor inadequate repayment. There are a lot of factors that have impacted that. But for the past 3 seasons, the Anchor Borrower funds have not been released to the farmers. So that too has impacted the volume of rice, being produced. And of course, into this season now, we are not yet aware that the Anchor Borrower program is going to resume. And so long as there is no adequate funding, the farmers are constrained. They can only do the little with the little they have. And just like you are saying, this flood actually impacted, so it wiped off virtually all the little that they used to have to eat and also store for this. Usually at the end of every season, they either stock some of the paddy, some will buy domestic animals or invest in a few things, and then which they now sell, to return to the farm. Now all those things are not available to a large percentage of them. So that is a very huge challenge for this season's production.
While commenting on the measures of improving local rice production, stakeholders emphasized the involvement of government in providing irrigation facilities and addressing the problem of insecurity to boost production.
You see, what we are always saying is that now we have reached a level in the rice processing industry in Nigeria that yes, we can almost 90% produce the rice. The main challenge is the primary production. We have to have more paddy in the system. And for you to do that, the government has to be involved. We need more irrigation facilities. All the existing ones are almost not existent or are in depleted condition. We need to revive them, produce more irrigation areas in the country, get more people back to paddy production. That is what we need to do now. We have to focus on paddy production. That is the key to bring the cost of paddy rice down.
State governments, particularly, and local governments need to come into providing basic irrigation facilities. That is what because even when we resort to dry season, the cost of fuel and labor is high. Fuel in particular, for instance, we are doing that now. The fuel that we estimate, we started with at less than 200 is between 350 and 400 now per liter. Naturally, it will impact the product because you have to recover those costs. So part of what is really required are, even if it's small scale, states have to come in. For now, only the federal government provides irrigation facilities. So states that own the farmers, that are closest to the farmers, have to venture into providing basic irrigation facilities so that we can, rather than becoming the menace that flooding are, we harvest that water and use them for dry season. And then, of course, mechanization. Mechanization is key because the young ones are not attracted to the farm because of the hard labor that they have. So the government also needs to create enabling environment for investors to, the government itself, into mechanization because it's costly. The average farmers can hardly afford those equipment. So governments need to come in by providing enabling environment, by subsidizing this input, providing irrigation facilities, providing mechanization, and generally encouraging the young ones to go back to the farm. Because if you mechanize, they will see the outflow, because there's money to be made in farming actually. A lot of young ones are not aware because they are discouraged by the drudgery, the hard work. But if you mechanize, and any young man that farms 1, 2, 3 hectares in one season and sees the gains, you won't bother about white collar job. How much do you make?
The policy actually is a good one to help Nigerians and to help local rice producers in Nigeria to produce rice for them to have a good life. Because you see, when the local farmers, when they go into rice production, they will be able to sell and make more money. But the policy didn't work. The policy was crippled completely because of the insecurity, the attack on farmers in the local areas. And in those local areas, there are no security. There are not enough security. So, so any attack on them, it will be difficult for the security people to get to them, to rescue them. So that's why the production, local rice production, the policy spoiled. That was where the policy spoiled. But if for the policy is a good one, is to grow our own local economy, to grow our economy. So, but then, what I expected the government would have done is to, if they know that this policy, yes, since they want the policy to thrive so that the local people do this, to grow, they should have provided enough security. But the government didn't do that. And by so doing, that aspect died. Natural death, and is still dying because nothing has been done so far. And then looking at the other parts, which is the importation of the rice, they closed the border to stop importation of rice. They would have also considered that since the farmers cannot go to farm again, they should have considered opening the border again so that people will be surviving on rice through that aspect. But the government claim deaf ears to this side and claim deaf ears to the other side. You see, that's why people are suffering and people can't afford rice. Because rice, to be honest, is one of the most essential food commodity, food item that people eat mostly on daily basis. You hardly see somewhere that maybe in a week will not eat rice.
You find out that even the farmers, the local producers that are by this policy aims to encourage, can hardly go to farm also because of the security crisis that we find ourselves, which also hampers the good aim of the government by coming up with such policy, where one cannot be assured of coming back from the farm by headmen and all the rest of them. All of us, we know what it's all about. And people will go to farm and they meet their dead bodies and all the rest of them. So a lot of farmers also are scared of going, which makes the few that goes come out and they will end up at selling it at any price they like. So that's one aspect that affects the policy. You understand, that makes it to seem as if it's not working.
The role of the government towards improving agriculture cannot be overemphasized. However, it is not enough to put a ban on rice importation. The mechanism to improve internal production equally needs to be put on check by the government. Well, the government will have to strengthen its policies towards containing some natural disasters in times of drought and other form of production losses responsible for low harvest. On that note, we've come to the end of today's package. Thanks for watching. I'm Gaza Yakubu.